All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to whatever episode this is of the Temple. I've lost count now, and I'm not even going to try because otherwise I'll just hate myself later on when I'm editing this. But today I have with me an amazing guest, and his name is Jordan Hatz and Bajik. Is that correct?
Yeah. People say Bajic, but it's like Baj, like in Serbian. That's how you pronounce it. But
Oh, all
yeah,
right.
Bajic or
Badge.
yeah. Normally people say Bajic, but yeah, it's fair. It's all good.
Fair enough. Well, it is. So you said Serbian, yeah? That last name?
Yeah, I'm half Serbian, half Greek, but yeah,
Wow, it's very that's very cultured. You got a whole
yeah, just mixed,
yeah
crazy mix. Yeah.
special mix. Well, so how are you, mate? Today? It's a great day, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's Friday. No prac today, so kind of just gonna head to the gym later and yeah, wake up late. Maybe play some games. You know how it is, just chilling out.
Just chilling out and relaxing. Okay,
Pretty
well,
much.
we'll get straight into it because I think there's probably quite a lot to talk about with yourself. And generally, with these things, I just like to start with a overview of sort of like your history as a player and sort of your journey through different lineups in Counter Strike. So, for you, where would you say your journey sort of started in Counter Strike? Is there a specific lineup you can think of?
I think the beginning of my journey, as you'd say, was probably when I got picked up by Trident. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was in like some CGA teams, but I didn't think I was really no, I wasn't really known in the community. So I think when I got picked up at Trident, that's when it started, and then from there, from there, just start off playing qualifiers and then playing CGP and then going to LAN and I'm just trying to think now. Did you want a rough overview of all my teams I went through, or
So just basic like things that come out of note to you, certain things that maybe have helped you get to the position that you're in right now, because obviously you're in, one of the top three teams in Australia. It's a quite, a high-ranked position, and I was wondering, in these teams that you were playing in, was there certain players maybe that you sort of gathered a lot from, or maybe certain teachings that you really took to heart and went, okay, well, this I can really help to build this, and that sort of helped get you where you are now?
well, first few names pop up in my mind. I think Tyler Tux. Sorry,
Yep.
it's probably one of the biggest people that's helped me in my kind of career, as you'd say. He actually helped me get into Trident because back then I was playing with Chiefs and I was scrimming with Chiefs and I was getting heaps of experience. And then they decided to pick up Burn and Dexter back then. So they wanted more experienced players because obviously they're going to be playing at LAN or at the minor and stuff. And I haven't played a LAN in my life. So since Burn left Trident, I got picked up at Trident. And he referred to me to Lonsdale. And I think Lonsdale was also a pretty big influence. I kind of didn't know how to play the game back then. I didn't understand the game. I didn't know what map control was. I didn't know any of that sort of stuff. I think also that influenced Lonsdale's kind of thought or thinking of how to play the game also influenced my kind of play style as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of his also playing LAN as well was also another big thing. First LAN was CGP at the technology park, and I'm pretty sure Legacy won.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Lonsdale is a very big stepping stone for me as a player. Just helping me understand the game better.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the sort of LAN experiences and how that LAN sort of helped you. Some mad drama going on in the background.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking if you can't hear that or not. Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty. Well, that's the thing. Like, I also tweeted because about my stream and stuff. So people at home and make heaps of noise, so it's kind of hard. And that's why I also had to move. If I was out there,
oh man,
like, it's all over, mate. It's all over.
It's all over.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll go into the question then. So the LAN environment, we've seen actually recently, obviously, I don't know if you saw, but Genuine kind of just overcame their sort of, I guess, LAN kryptonite, where when they turn up at these LAN tournaments, it's a shadow of what they normally are, and they've just recently been able to sort of overcome that with their win over Paradox at AEF. And so I was wondering, from your perspective, why do you think that happens a lot of the time? What is the big difference that allows players to almost play a completely different way when it comes to online and on LAN?
I think it's a lot to do with just mentality and our culture in the scene. I think like we take practice kind of not as seriously. And sorry, I'm in an interview. So anyway, so yeah, sorry, my train of thought then. Yeah, no, so people don't take prac as seriously, right? And I think it's just a mentality thing where obviously you want to practice how you're going to play, right? And when you come at a big game on LAN and it's a qualifier for something, or it's, you know, it's to win something, most of the time, regarding like all the, you know, instinctual stuff and all the on the fly stuff, there's always going to be a little bit of an element of what you've practiced. You're going to put it onto LAN, right? So I think people don't have will use their practice well enough. I think it's also just it's just an experience thing. For me, I think I played my first qualifier against big teams, and it's kind of like after that, you kind of just get a sense of you get humbled. A lot of this, I don't know, it's weird. This could be totally just for me as well. You kind of just get humbled, and the next time you play, you just know, like, you know, it's not a crazy big deal, you know. It's just like another game, and you just play the game, you know. So
yeah,
I think it just takes a bit of time. Some players also just, you know, come in there and, you know, first time they play LAN and they just dominate. So it's just individual to individual, but I also think it's also a bit of a mentality thing in Oz culture with our practice as well. That's just my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's obviously, I've heard that before with other people that I've talked to about this sort of idea that a lot of the people in our scene just kind of have the practice isn't as serious as what it is when you get into that actual LAN situation. But before we touch that, I did want to ask, do you think that maybe the lack of LANs that we have, it's not like a crazy lack, there's definitely a decent amount here, but it's nowhere near what you see on that international level. So do you think that if we had more LAN tournaments, that maybe a lot of those kinks could be ironed out, or is that not something that you think would fix that?
Yeah, like I think so. Like obviously it would. But I also think that the mentality should be like we should take every game, you know, whether, you know, if it's online and we're playing online for 3 months, you know, we're taking every game and we're going 110%. And then when that transfers to a LAN event, you know, 3 months from the beginning of the year, bam, just like the same intensity, the same, mentality. Even though it's a LAN, you haven't played LAN for 3 months, I still think that the mentality should be rock solid. But I also do think it would help. It would help everyone, even people that are up and coming and new to the scene as teams, but also us as well. It would just help condition us, when we go overseas and stuff, and play against bigger teams. You can just easily slot into there as well. But yeah.
Yeah. So in your perspective, then we'll go back to this sort of the training thing, because again, like I said, I've heard this before, but it does seem as though there is definitely a lack of seriousness when it comes to that field. And like you were saying, if you're always putting in that top effort, you're going to be able to sort of, I guess, transform that into LAN performances and competition performances a lot easier if you are always playing in that style, rather than, just pissing around in practice and then you come into a tournament and now suddenly we're taking it seriously, because it's almost like, this isn't what we practiced. Is that...
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because you always like, you see teams in interviews sometimes, they might be like, oh yeah, we just felt a bit scared in that game and we weren't ourselves and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that just comes down to confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously confidence in the game. And I think confidence comes back to preparation. But this is all just one thing, right? There's many different factors to it, So it's not just, I wouldn't say it's just the training. It's just also, it could be many factors: people's individual preparation, people's mentality at the time,
Mm-hmm.
People's just general experience. So, I think I actually forgot the question, to be honest. But
it was just the generalized sort of training regiment that goes on, but I will just transform that into something else, because
sorry, man.
It's okay. It was more of a riff off point anyway, rather than a specific thing. But so I did want to talk to you then about that mental game that you spoke of there, and the mentality in playing the game. Now, your team order, I think, would it be fair to say that you are one of the more emotional teams when you come into these performances, LAN performances at least? Or do you think that's an unfair characterization of your lineup?
I think we're mixed, to be honest. I think you can have teams that are emotional, but for us, I think some people are emotional. Mm-hmm. In terms, I think Ali gets really loud and fired up.
Yeah.
And then you have Imagine, he's kind of just chilling.
Yeah.
So and I've kind of transformed into, I don't know, I used to be very like loud and stuff, but I've kind of just calmed down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, I'm up and down with that sort of stuff, but I don't know, the recent LAN we played, I was kind of really chill, so I was kind of just surprised myself. I was just kind of but I think overall we kind of just have a mixed bag, and I think having mixed bags pretty good.
Yeah.
You want people that are loud, and then you want people that are also calm in situations as well. So yeah, I think that's us for sure.
I guess it comes down to sort of how you convert the energy that is generated when you are at those LAN tournaments. There is definitely a different level of adrenaline almost that gets generated, and people deal with that in different ways. And there's definitely people that, like you said, like Ali, who like to shout a lot and sort of get hyped up, and then people like Emag who are more just kind of chill, and then people like yourself in the middle, kind of, depending on, I guess, the day at the time. Would you say that sometimes that emotion can get the better of this order lineup, or do you not really have that as an issue right now? for yourself and your lineup?
Well, I think basing off recent performances, I think we're talking about this lineup right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess you can you could kind of bring it to before Valiance, because I know that's very recent, and that is just the ESL kind of. So you could, if you want, you can take it back to lineup with Zeph. But yeah,
yeah, I think overall, I think right now we're in a pretty good space.
Mm-hmm.
And also back when we had Charlie, just thinking of all the results we've had, there was times where, you know, some people would get pretty emotional in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously, you know, it does take has an effect on some people's performances as well. You know, whether that's the person that's emotional itself or onto others, and it's kind of a spread, kind of like a disease in a sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that there has been times where we have been emotional for sure, and I think that also, yeah, I think that's pretty much the answer. I'm just thinking, you know, like I'm just thinking because we've had a lot of bad results in the past, so I wouldn't say it's entirely our results were based off our emotions, as well. There's obviously in-game issues.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do think that there were times that was the case. Yes, for sure.
Now, coming off that, I wanted to talk. Obviously, you recently acquired Valiance, who's now in the lineup, and I wanted to ask you, kind of, what is the different approach now with him in the team as opposed to Zeph? What's the sort of the change been like?
I think the change has been pretty smooth, to be honest. I like Matt a lot, and he's just kind of taken his just responsibility as we've kind of just put him in spots, and he's just, you know, taken it on board and just been really responsible of his basic, like, just individual, you know, skill and performing with the team. And I wouldn't say he's. Oh, hello.
Yep, still here.
Okay. My bad. My screen just turned off. Anyway, so I think it's like a sleep thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So Matt's not like a fully talkative guy. He's pretty quiet, but he obviously has things that he needs to improve on, and he knows that. And we tell him and stuff. So, but yeah, he's pretty straightforward, and we just tell him what to improve on, and he just works on it, and he's improving, and yeah. So it's just pretty straightforward and pretty yeah, he's good to work with.
Fair enough. So, moving off that then as well, because I think that also plays a part into sort of. I wouldn't even say it's really a problem. It's more of like I guess it's just a situation that your lineup is in where I've talked about this before with other people, but you have such a skilled lineup that a lot of the times, even when Zeph was in this lineup, when people were looking at, okay, what's the problem? What's going on? What is the hurdle that is happening there? They look at the lineup and they go, okay, well, everyone in there is solid, you know, and even Zeph was playing well, but maybe he's not the right fit, and maybe Valiance is able to, you know, sort of slide in better and fill a different section that can maybe even support, I guess, I don't even know, what's the Power Ranger mega thing that they get into? I don't even know what it's called.
I don't know, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so it is like this crazy skilled lineup. So do you think that is it difficult to sort of handle all of the players in that team that can go off at certain points, and yeah, is it difficult to handle so much, I guess, talent in that lineup?
I think it's just more consistency thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure like Josh knows like or Ins, if I was to say, he wasn't as consistent when we've had those results, like he would say fair enough.
Yeah.
So and I think out of us three, like Alistair, me and Ins, we needed probably two of us playing well for us to get wins,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes that might not be the case. And yeah, so but most of the time you do need your rock solid three kind of big guns to do really well, and that's when your team's doing well. But I think this year was kind of just everyone would drop off at certain points, so
couldn't get
yeah,
it lined up at the same time.
yeah, well, we would sometimes, right? And we would just, kind of just dominate teams. But then sometimes, in big games or whatever, I might not be playing well, and it's kind of just hard when and someone else is not playing well. Then we kind of just fall apart there. So, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I feel like that's kind of our team, and it's kind of revolved around that. So this is just my opinion as well.
Yeah,
I think people in my team could have other opinions of it. So yeah.
So for you, obviously, you come into a lot of these LAN tournaments as, I guess, one of the favourites, right, to get out. It's generally, if Greyhound's there, then it's them. But if they're not there, then it's Chiefs and you guys, right? You're always sort of favoured to, at the very least, make the final or make that top two spot with Chiefs there. So when you come into these, I was talking briefly with APOC about sort of, I guess, coming into tournaments with the favourite, I guess, logo on your back. How do you sort of manage that?
Well, for me, I kind of just don't really think about it. I don't know. I just kind of just play the game. So
just ignore it and totally shut it out.
For me, like, I don't know. For me, it could be different for other people in the team, but I kind of just play like, how it would be another game, playing against Genuine online and whatever, and you kind of know how they play, and you're just playing the game, and, you're just fragging. That's about it for me. So,
right. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of just, I don't know. I'm just excited to play on LAN and just excited to just play the game. And, I just don't really like think about all that stuff. I'm just keen to just perform and play well and play the game, really. That's about it.
Fair enough. So then when we come into these tournaments then, and let's say the result that you go into this tournament and maybe the result isn't exactly what you guys wanted out of that LAN tournament. What are the steps that you make to sort of get back on the horse? If you suffer a loss, what's the correct, or is there a correct way? Do you have a strategy that you use to sort of go, all right, fine, we got to get back on the horse, start working again?
We kind of just review the game that we lost. Most losses, we'd always review them, and we kind of look at what we did wrong. And when we had Elmer in the team, we would jump on Discord and we'd just all watch the game together, and we just look at mistakes. Everyone gives their opinion and stuff, and people, I wouldn't say call out other people, but people would just be like, oh yeah, this is my bad. I kind of screwed up here and I could have done this better. Or Chris might be like, oh, we could have done this better to on the T side to because they were like, stacking towards A more, playing heavy towards more A or something. So we kind of just analyze the game, and then get those points and just kind of put it into our game, and then fix those mistakes, and then just go again, really. But yeah, there's obviously times where you have big losses, right? And it's kind of like, you get to a point where it's like, oh yeah, you can't be, making those mistakes. And well, yeah, it happens, but yeah, it is what it is, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So to sort of bridge off that, I've always been interested in this because I think it's a specific sort of mindset that you have to have when you're playing at that top level of Counter-Strike, and that is when you're in a situation where you're, severely down in a map and nothing's working, and if maybe it is that situation where it's a minor qualifier or an IEM Sydney qualifier. What's like the sort of remedy to that? How do you have like a sort of specific mindset that you go to, or like you said before, where the favorite thing doesn't even bother you? Do you think at all about that when those sort of situations go on, or is that not something that really hits you specifically?
I think this year we were in that situation a lot, to be honest. We were always like on the back foot, and we'd always be climbing back. We just kind of just take every game, every round as it is, and just we don't really like just think about in the past rounds or any of that sort of stuff. But we do know that it's super rough when we like lose pistol and the next gun round, and then we eco it twice through all those rounds. So it's like 5-6-0 down. We've been in that situation multiple times this year, and we always climb back. But most of the time, we do lose those games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it wasn't really like a mental thing that or we don't really like think of anything. We just kind of just play every round as it is. But I think most of those games, I don't know. We're pretty momentum based, our team. So I think once we get pistol and we start get the ball rolling, we play we play really, really well. But when we're on the back foot, it's a lot harder for us. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We always just there's nothing really much to that we go back to. Obviously, all the stuff we've practiced, but we just take every round as it is.
Fair enough. So obviously we've been talking about sort of recent form for Order, and I know maybe it sounds like you like it's not been great, but obviously that's not really true. If you look at the results, it's just that maybe it's not. It's difficult, right? Because in these tournaments, if you're not number one, then it does feel like a loss. But you go previously. We'll just go to ESL Australia NZ Champs Season 9, right? Which is the most recent one, where you dominated everyone, including Ground Zero as well, which I would say is a pretty solid team. They've just made a decent move to pick up Zeph now, and they're definitely coming into fight. And it's not as if anybody else is catching up, if that makes sense. Like the teams that are below Order, it doesn't even seem like people are catching. You have maybe Avant, right, which I will get your opinion on later, but it does seem like you guys are still playing quite well. So what do you think is the current issue right now for your team? And is Valiance the solution to that, by the way? If that's what you're operating under, is that the solution, or?
I think so. I think ESL, AU, and NZ Champs, for us, like we was kind of laughing at the fact that we kind of knew we were going to do really well because um, it wasn't something that kind of ended into a qualifier for overseas or something.
Right,
Or
yeah.
something big, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know, it kind of lifted a lot of just
Pressure.
shit off our shoulders, you know what I mean? Just sort of so we just kind of played, and we played like super loose as well. It wasn't like we played very much like we were playing. We're kind of just there having fun and playing the game. So yeah, I think our biggest issue during the year, well, I think in my opinion, obviously, like losing Jay was like obviously a big hit to us, right? And I think that if we were to compete on Greyhound's level, to be number one, we would need everyone to be playing, insanely well, in my opinion. Because obviously, I feel like they might have just the bigger caliber of players in terms of firepower.
Yeah.
So, but there has been times where we have beaten them, and when the game does go well for us, and we get the momentum, we can beat them.
Yeah.
But I think during this year, a lot of games we just didn't have the momentum with us, and then we had some players, including myself, just kind of just disappearing in the game. So, yeah. And then obviously including just the emotional side of it as well. And it's also just, another thing. Yeah, I don't know. This year just made me realize that, just be grateful when you win, because when we were winning all the time, I wasn't the most grateful, to be honest. So I think that it's helped me a lot as a person and a player.
Yeah.
Just appreciate, every win and all the hard work you've done to get that win. And so yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I think that's obviously a fairly good lesson for anybody to sort of, sit back and enjoy the successes that you do have, right? Because, that could work for anything, even just in general life decisions and choices. Sometimes maybe it's difficult to feel that success when you're constantly living in it, but then when you lose that, that's when you really start to realize how important it was. So I do want to get your opinion on the Avant roster, because I think, I don't know, I really like it, but I also am a little bit afraid that I'm getting on a hype train again. And they had the very good performance, obviously, against yourself at the minor qualifier, and then they played okay at that minor. They kind of got spanked a little by Tai Lu and MVP, but other than that, they are looking quite good. So what's your opinion on that lineup?
Well, my opinion, I think they're a good bunch of players that are super hungry to win, and they're super hungry to improve and get better. I think that they're not a team to, kind of shove away. I do think that they'll be good. I don't know. I think it just needs more time, to be honest.
So you wouldn't put them in that sort of top 4 right now? Because I know a lot of people put them up there with yourselves, Chiefs, and Greyhound. but maybe that just a little bit more evidence is needed to place them up there, you would say?
No, I think they're definitely top 4.
Yeah. Okay.
But like we just need more time. I think that obviously like not taking anything away from them from beating us, but obviously there's I don't know. I like the way to say this is kind of just bad, but like teams when they make new changes and stuff, there's a lot of I feel like it also got to us a little bit, maybe just the pressure a bit of us kind of being expected to win. So
and maybe the honeymoon phase for them.
That also helped them as well, in my opinion, a bit. I'm sure that it's not something that's no, I'm not saying they've played bad or anything. I think they played really, really good Counter-Strike. But yeah, obviously that's a little bit of a factor that helped them as well, being a new team and not much pressure on them. So
yeah, was it hard to prac for them going into that tournament?
Sorry, what was that?
Hard to prac for them? Because obviously they're still a relatively new team, so there wouldn't have been a lot of demos to watch.
Yeah, obviously. I think that it wasn't too much to go off. They did beat us twice, so it's just props to them. They just took the opportunity and just played well.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I think it's just one of those things where it's it's just hard situation for us to I think it's been also one of those situations that we haven't really been under as well. I think most of the year we were kind of looking at the minor and thinking, Renegades aren't there, and we have a big opportunity to go there as well with Greyhound. So there was a lot of built up to it. So yeah, I think so I think they're a good lineup. We just need more time. I do think they're top 4 definitely, but we just do need more time to see if they either escalate, de-escalate, or just stay the same. We'll just have to see.
Fair enough. So moving on from that, then obviously Genuine playing quite well right now, and I think it's between probably themselves and I would say maybe Ground Zero that are fighting for that number 5 spot. So do you have an opinion on who you think is above the other team? Is there one team that you find more difficult to play against than the other, or?
We've been pracking against both teams, and I think it's a bit more annoying to play against Ground Zero, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're just super aggressive and kind of I think I don't know. It's also another hard topic to to say who's better.
Obviously
the actual results. Obviously, like Charlie just joining Ground Zero, but just based off just having a look, I still think I don't know. Like if Genuine. I don't know. It's just so hard.
Yeah, it's difficult.
I can't just say who's better,
Yeah.
I think, obviously we have to see it. We have been playing Ground Zero a bit in scrim, so they've been annoying to play against, but also Genuine as well.
Yeah.
So, but I think overall we'll just have to see who's better.
Yeah.
And
it does kind of feel like a bit of a tug of war right now between those two in the way they play. Obviously, with Ground Zero now picking up with Ground Zero now picking up Zeph, it kind of does feel like it feels like a good play. You saw SYF and what they did. Did you see what they did against Genuine?
Yeah.
I mean, it does sell it. It does sell him on his resume that he can perform like that on the new team that quickly, take that land victory against Genuine, and then Ground Zero almost kind of feels like they just steal him away there and go, all right, yep, come over here, buddy. We're going straight to to try and steal that number 5 spot. So it definitely feels like Ground Zero are trying to make moves to sort of break into, I guess, the tier 1 of Australia. And now I think. Yeah, sorry.
I do think on paper, like, Ground Zero should be there.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but who knows over time?
Yeah.
You know, I think those results that happen, you know, nothing to take away from those results, but I think just over time we need to see more. You know, I don't think on paper also doesn't define if they're better, but we'll just have to see over time.
Fair enough. Now, I sort of talked about this a little bit before with Avant, but sometimes when we talk about teams in Australia, I guess in my mind, I use the tier system, right? Where you have your tier 1 teams, which is yourself, Chiefs, and Greyhound. And then I'm fighting whether or not I'm going to put Avant there. Obviously, I'm kind of with you where I want to see where this ESL tournament goes for them, how well they play, and if they, really show some skin there, then I think that's what will put them in tier 1 for me. And then we have sort of the tier 2 area, which is that Ground Zero and Genuine. Now, in your opinion, because I've asked a lot of those players, and they're all under the, impression that there is a pretty large gap between tier 1 teams such as yourselves and, those tier 2 teams. Now, from your perspective, do you see a large gap between yourselves and those teams?
I think, I think so. Trying to be as humble as I can.
Yeah. It's not a very humble question. I apologize.
Yeah. Look, when we have a game against Genuine or one of those teams, for myself, and I'm sure for the rest of my team, we're pretty confident. We're really confident on winning.
Yeah.
So I think there is a pretty big gap, but I think over time, and I think a lot of it is us having a lot of more experience, overseas and all that sort of stuff. Helps us a lot. And we also are doing it full time, so
exactly.
We have a lot more time to spend on the game, and these teams might not have that time. So I think it's hard, but I do think there's a bit of a gap. I wouldn't say it's they can get sometimes be a 1 win or a map off us here and there.
Yeah.
But I still think there's a bit of a gap now.
So talking about that then, a lot of when I've asked people about this, a lot of the time, the response to why there is a gap is obviously the prac time, right? And the fact that teams like yourselves, those tier 1 teams, are all doing it full time, right? So there's a lot more time to put into it, a lot more time to put into it. So you're pracking more than those lineups are. Now, do you have any kind of, suggestion or idea on how those teams can sort of combat that? Do you think there is a solution in how I know it's kind of maybe not beneficial to you guys to give advice to other people to how they can get to your level, but do you think there's any kind of sort of strategy that they can use to catch up?
I think the biggest thing that they can do is just having good attitude. And it might not sound much, but trust me, it's a big thing. And it even kind of hurts even the top teams. So I think if you have a good attitude and you're always trying to improve and you're putting as much work as in possible, anything is possible. So, it won't stop any player team to, get to the top pretty easily. So that's just my opinion. But I think that a lot of it is to mentality, and yeah, I think that is probably a very big thing for them to improve on. But look, I don't know. They could have really good attitudes and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying they had bad attitudes and stuff. I'm just saying in general that I'm sure everyone can work on their attitude in general. So I think that's a very big thing.
So that's obviously a big thing is the attitude thing. But are there any other like even just play style things that you see in those teams like Chiefs and Greyhounds that you don't see in the lower lineups, or is it just a mentality and attitude thing? Do you think? Obviously, the prac involved as well.
I think like playing Greyhound and Chiefs, kind of like a more in depth, updated kind of, strat book, just individual like skill, just all the utility, like going overseas, like a big just upgrade to all of that.
Yeah.
And maybe even better comms. So I think that like playing Greyhound and kind of Chiefs, I feel like there's a lot of new strats and all this sort of stuff that you might get hit by, but I feel like when we do play, Genuine and all those other teams, you kind of understand how they're going to play, and you kind of understand how far their stuff goes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's almost like they're not really working on themselves. They're more kind of just trying to match you guys, if that makes sense.
Well, they could be working on themselves. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Obviously.
But I think there's just the in-depth experience, and I don't know. This is obviously not something that they can. Obviously, the question is, what more can they improve on, or what can they get? But in terms of just the difference between Greyhound and Chiefs is you might get unexpected, something that happens in the game that you might not
have seen before,
or something new that happens, or something new that you might need to react to, and you might not make the proper reaction. That can cost the round, that can cost the game. With Genuine, you kind of know exactly. Sorry, my monitor. You kind of know exactly what's going to go down and what to expect. So that is the difference, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of what to add on to that, but yeah.
No, I think it's a fairly good point. I think it is that sort of, I guess, updating the playbook and keeping it moving. And I think, obviously, just so people that are aware that are watching, no shade thrown on anyone, right? Obviously, this is just opinion, and it's there to help if people want to look at it and see it, and maybe they can gain something from that. But I did want to point out that I think that maybe advanced performance at that minor kind of does sort of show a little bit of what you're talking about there, where it does seem like at certain points we're kind of just we're playing the same thing over and over again, and there's not really, okay, well, this isn't working, we'll pull out this new thing. You know what I mean? Obviously there is the joke of saving the strats for major, but it does seem like maybe we're not saving anything.
Yeah, well, look, also, Tyler's just another beast.
Right? Yeah, totally. Obviously,
they're also notorious for huge counter-stratting. Like, all the Chinese teams love to counter-strat. I think there's many factors to to that, I think, and obviously the experience thing. I think
Yeah.
some of the players in advanced first minor, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, obviously.
First time playing Tyloo. So yeah, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I think there is some similarities, but there's also
Other
other
aspects as well.
factors. Yeah.
So I heard, or there was a recent quote. Well, maybe not recently, but I remember this because it's going through my head now, and it was from a Greyhounds player. I can't remember who, and they were talking about how they believe that their skill level, and I'm talking about like aim and things like that, are very evenly matched to the top teams in the world. You know, obviously that doesn't mean okay we're all simples, but do you know what I mean? Like it's of the caliber of top international play. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there is a significant skill level drop off when it comes to Australian CS as opposed to international level CS?
I think individual skill. I don't know exactly the quote, but
Yeah,
I think in terms of individual skill, I think so. I think yes. Obviously, they're like it's not the same as Zywoo's and all the
unique examples.
But I think just a general crossover. I do think that even not just including ground, I think some players in the region definitely can play on an individual skill basis. They're on the same level for sure, 100%. Right? I definitely think that. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Fair enough. So I did want to sort of, as we close this up, go to the major stage, because obviously that's coming up right now. We'll pull that up just so that I know what I'm looking at here. So that is the... I guess it's... I assume it's still called the main... the main qualifier is still what it's called. And I did just want to talk about this, not so much the I guess the main event, but the main qualifier, right? Now, Greyhound are in this one, and you have a lot of experience playing against them. So I wanted to ask you, do you think it's possible, and obviously this is just an opinion, do you think it's possible that they can make it into the main stage? Obviously there's yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I think they can for sure.
Yeah. I was looking at it
obviously. Yeah, sorry, go.
Sorry, I was just looking at it before, and obviously all the lineups that are there, and it does seem like, top 8 is very possible right now for Greyhound, especially in this particular tournament.
I definitely think they can do it, but there's also every major, there's always upsets and there's always new teams that, there's surprises and all that sort of stuff. So you can't say for sure. It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
I do think they can do it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there can be teams where they can be some teams that just are randomly, very good on the day. Or there's always upsets, I feel like, at the major, especially at being BO1s. Even though there's multiple chances, I think that a lot of teams can get you off guard and get some BO1 wins. But I think overall they can do it. I've looked at the teams. I do think they need a win. They do need a win against a good team to do it. So, and I think it's possible for sure. But who knows? We'll see. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it seems like it also might be easier this time around than it was last time around, because it's not your first rodeo. You know what I'm saying? You've been there before now. You can be a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, you're still hours away from home and the flights or whatever. But they have stayed in Berlin since the minor. Is that right? Yeah, the minor. Sorry, mind blank. Yeah, but Yeah, so they have been there for a while. You've done it before. There's maybe a little bit more comfortable this time coming into it. But like you said, I do think you got to get a win against somebody good here. There's obviously, and there's some talented lineups. You got Vitality, NRG, G2, Mouse Sports, Furia, North, Tai Lu. I think that's a fairly matched play now. But maybe Complexity. That's one of those teams that can get you sometimes, and then obviously Hellraisers. Yep. So you're gonna need it. You're gonna need at least one. So
for sure, 100%. I think it's very doable. I think it's very, very, very doable. But and Ground are the type of team, in my opinion, that when there's a result that is, or there's a game that's expected them to win, they most of the time do win it. So they don't really they play well under pressure and that sort of stuff. So I do think it's doable for them.
Okay. Well, I want to get one final or maybe two final things in, but I did want to ask because I think maybe it might not be as controversial as what I consider it to be. But I think there's maybe a little bit of change in how you want the Australian scene to be perceived, right? And what I'm talking about there is a obviously maybe not a maturity level, but like the obviously the humor over in Australia is pretty coarse in some ways. There's a lot of swearing that goes on, and Greyhound, especially with Dick Stacey, they kind of embody that a little bit with their humor. Now, some people have sort of criticized them for that, and maybe saying, okay, you got to represent yourself a little bit better. Personally, for yourself, do you have any concern about that? Is that something that you would do yourself, or in something along those sort of lines?
I think it's obviously everyone has their opinion, right? I don't think there's no like full right answer in my opinion. Yeah. But I think if their content's funny, like who gives a who cares? You know what I mean? So fair enough. I think and there's obviously no rules to social media as well. So exactly. Obviously they have an influence, right? But I think that I don't know. There's no I don't know. For me, it's like it's neutral. Let them do whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's all good. Like I don't think that their stuff is like because they're professional. CSGO players. They need to present everything they post needs to be crazy professional. Like you can kind of put their kind of content in the same boat as Stewie's kind of sort of shit talk, right? Yeah. It's like it's kind of in the same boat where it's like they have to be professional. Like I think that I think it just makes it more fun, and some of the stuff's funny, and it makes it more interesting. You know what I mean? And makes it better.
Do you have any specific memories of any shit talk that you've heard at a LAN where you've just been like, what is going on right now? No, I haven't actually. I think being overseas, they just all fire up really loud. Yeah. Like really loud, especially like a lot of the CIS teams do. Astralis, when they were in Cato, they were going like crazy. Like Sonic was just going crazy. Yeah. A lot of the teams go crazy. But there wasn't really like shit talk. Didn't really any shit talk. Just more yelling.
So, but I wouldn't be surprised now if like Liquid were like shit talking at the group stage events or whatever. But yeah, no, it's
fair enough. Okay, well, I will end with this then. Obviously, there might be some people watching this who are looking to try and get into playing Counter-Strike here in this Australian scene, and are maybe just starting to get into these sort of lower level CG teams. What's sort of the main piece of advice that you would give somebody who's just coming into this?
Main piece of advice. For me, like, obviously, I think just improving your overall game, and that's comes from having a really good attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not being emotional when you die, or your teammate might not be watching something, and you're like, oh, your effing teammate, why aren't you watching that? Or you get salty and all this, and because you're kind of feeling like you want to be the best, and you want to get to renegades and all this sort of stuff, and it's like it's very selfish, like kind of attitude, right? I think that if you're just always trying to improve, you're enjoying the game, you're putting the hard work in, like there's nothing more you can do than that. And trust me, you'll be getting better like very quickly. Yeah, so that's just my opinion.
Well, there you go. Attitude is number one if you want to make it. So thank you so much for coming on, Jordan. I really appreciate it, mate. It's been an honour to talk to you, and obviously I do wish you the best of luck with your future performances at that order, and I'll be watching with much excitement. Anyway, I think I've got a really dope one coming out soon. It depends. Obviously, these things are it depends who says yes to me, basically. But I got a really cool one coming out, and hopefully that one should be good. So stay tuned for that. And again, thanks for coming, and we'll see you guys next time. All right, peace. See ya.